Hi guys, it has been a long while. I have been on hiatus for a minute now. Life kind of happened. It was one thing after another. But I'm in college now. I have 2 jobs. Barely scraping by still. Have a car that's falling apart. But at least I have a car now. Because in January there was an accident and I didn't have a car. Life had become very chaotic. And every time I wanted to record and do stuff, it just never aligned. But I'm hoping to start posting again because I really miss doing these. I hope the fandom is still around. I hope the people who do enjoy my podfics and other people's podfics in the MHA fandom are still around and are still listening, because I really want to share this with you guys still. But if you do have any recommendations for any future fandoms you're interested in, please let me know. Unless though I've watched it or been in the fandom, I'm very iffy because I'm picky on my what fandoms I'll read fanfic on. So, but I do like Miraculous Ladybug. I have to catch up on the newer stuff, but I may be posting more of those because I did start a little bit and then I kind of crashed. And I may have some old videos I'll be posting in the near future that I need to find in my files and edit a bit because there are some errors here and there, and the beginning audio is so off because back then I thought I was going to start posting again and it just didn't end up happening because I did not have the time. I recorded it, but I didn't do anything with it. But you guys are going to also be getting that if I can find all the information related to that fic. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So this fic is called The Linked One Will Go for the Others by Panicking Avocado. It will be linked in the description, like always. There are a few trigger warnings. Trigger warnings are fairly detailed descriptions of gore and stuff like it, throwing up, violence, and swearing. It's not the worst we've had on this channel, so it shouldn't be too bad, but if those things do bother you, please click off my video and go check out either my older videos or keep an eye out for my newer ones and check out some of other people who are also making podfics, because there are so many amazing podfickers out there right now and you should definitely check them out. Anyway, without further ado, let's start. His body was screaming at him, and his vision was taunting him as it refused to focus. Through the tears and blood in his eyes, he could just barely make out his classmates' limp body that lay in pools of their own blood. An icy cold laughter echoed from All for One as it punctured through the deadly quiet air as he stood just above Izuku. The sound sends ice down Izuku's spine, but it fills his chest with pure rage and agony. My young hero, it looks like you weren't good enough. It also seems as though he was right. All for One chides. He needs not to explain who was Izuku's memory of his first time meeting with All Might came to light. More importantly, what All Might said. You're wrong, the dying hero gasped out. It was getting harder and harder for him to breathe as blood slowly filled his lungs. Tell that to them, the villain gestured to the dead bodies of the children who had just put their full fate into Izuku. His heart ached as All for One's word echoed through his mind. He's right. He's painfully admitted to himself. But don't worry, little one. I'll make sure this power is used correctly, All for One said, as he flared the stolen One for All quirk. Seemingly knowing that his words got to the young hero, he used one of his many quirks and disappeared. Izuku knew he was, without a doubt, planning the destruction of not only of Japan, but the whole world. As the weight of his failure finally settled onto him, he couldn't stop the agonizing gut-curling scream that escaped his mouth. He ignored the news helicopter that had broadcast the entirety of the battle, all of his failures, the entire world, and tried focusing on getting himself closer to his friends. Can I even call them my friends after I've cost them their lives? His inner turmoil cried out. He cried out as pain shot up through his upper body as he tried sitting up. He looked down to assess his injuries, but for the first time, he didn't have the time to turn his head as the stomach acid shot out of his mouth. He was missing the lower half of his right arm and a dense chunk of his left side. Adrenaline was a hell of a drug, but it was slowly fading away from him now. Through gritted teeth in pure agony, he slowly shuffled his way over to the nearest classmate. He had to stop and throw up again as he got closer to Bakugo. Well, I guess half of Bakugo. Bakugo's body, below the head, was completely missing underneath a pile of concrete from a building that had been blown up. Angry and sorrow-filled tears rushed down Izuku's face as he looked at the almost unidentifiable face of his childhood friend. His body gave up on him and he fell limp onto the ground, his head resting on the forever still chest of Katsuki Bakugo. The world started growing colder and more distant as he felt his life slowly bleed away. I'm so sorry, Bakugo. You were right. A quirkless can't be a hero. The world faded into nothingness, and Izuku, for the first time since he was only 3 years old, was relieved of it all. He and his friends could finally rest now, but the lingering thought of how he's no longer able to protect people from All for One slowly ate at him. Izuku had idea how long he was in the void, but after a while, he slowly came to accept his fate, and how it was no longer his burden to try to protect all of Japan, but alas, the universe can't seem to let him rest peacefully. Izuku screamed, or well, he tried to, though no sound came out of his mouth. When a blinding light appeared out of nowhere in the middle of nothingness, he felt himself get pulled into. He tried fighting against it, but soon realized it was futile. When he opened his eyes, he was expecting to see some form of afterlife, and definitely not the unforeseen simulation joint. Sitting peacefully in one piece, with the sun shining through the dome window, he blinked and looked around, and nearly had a heart attack when he noticed who was standing around him. All 19 of his classmates looked forward at the Pro Hero 13 as they explained they'll be working on that. 13 as they explained that they will be working on that today. What the fuck? Izuku murmured to himself under his breath as he took a small step back. Jiro and Shoji glanced at him weirdly as their enhanced hearing allowed them to make out his words. He knew he should notify one of the pros. They had just time traveled over a full year back, but he couldn't help but look at his classmates and the pure innocent smiles they had on their faces. Izuku wasn't sure when the last time he saw his classmates all smiling like that. The overwhelming emotions of seeing all of his friends unharmed and so carefree completely made him forget of what was about to occur. That was until Aizawa-sensei started barking orders to the students to stay back and to not engage with the villains. Izuku realized with a terrifying amount of anger that all of his classmates' problems could be solved right now if he quickly dealt with Shigaraki and Kurogiri. He walked up to the start of the stairs, much to the chagrin of his teachers, and looked down the stairs towards the plaza and saw the villains pouring in when made eye contact with Shigaraki as he stepped through the warp gate. The young, traumatized war veteran set eyes on one of the men responsible. The young, traumatized war veteran set eyes on one of the men responsible for not only so much of his own issues, but all of his classmates. He ignored the demands from Aizawa-sensei to back off, as he felt the familiar hum of One for All in his bones. Green lighting danced around his body, and before anyone could stop him, he shot Black Whip that wrapped around some light poles, and then repeatedly stomped his foot to use Fujin, before catapulting himself down the stairs at an unholy speed. He aimed right for the pneumo, and his foot connected with the being's chest. Izuku felt the bone cracking underneath the pressure, and a wicked grin spread across his face at the sound and feeling. The Nomi was launched across the entire dome into the fake mountain zone. Izuku quickly changed his trajectory and launched himself at Shigaraki, a punch in the gut at about 20%, and at speeds of magic god, sent Shigaraki flying across the plaza and smashing into a cement wall with a sickening crunch. Izuku felt no remorse, as he had heard the same sound countless times as his friends have been tossed like ragdolls by Shigaraki and All for One. Without giving the villain a moment to process what happened, he quickly turned to Kurogiri and sent a kick that was about 45% that immediately incapacitated him. He whipped around and faced all of the puny criminals, and they all immediately fell to their knees, put their hands up in surrender. But Izuku gave no empathy and quickly secured the group of villains with Black Whip, before throwing them, rendering them all unconscious when he was done. He looked around the plaza, breathing heavily, and as soon as he noticed that there was no more villains, he stirred around as he walked. Stirring around, he tried walking back to the class, but after only 3 steps, his eyes rolled back in the back of his head and he fell like a sack of potatoes. That was chapter 1. Now chapter 2, since it shouldn't be too long either. Chapter 2 is what the hell is going on with Midoriya. Anyway, part 2. Aizawa was trying his best to keep his composure, but this new class of his was giving him gray hairs left and right. They were underway to the USJ for a special class, and all of them were ecstatic. He did find a moment of amusement when Ida tried organizing everyone only for the bus to be a different type than he thought it would be. Aizawa tried his best to tune out the kids' loud conversations, but it was nearly impossible, as the sheer volume that they were talking at, once they arrived, everyone got off everyone got off the bus and followed 13 into the building. The moment they stepped in, Aizawa had a gut screamed at him that something was wrong with one of his students. He studied them as they listened to 13, but they all seemed normal. Then something caught his eye. He watched as the plaza was taken over by a purple portal, and criminals. Everyone, stay back. This is not part of the training. He barked at them, and he tried gauging how he was going to confront the criminals when Midoriya walked forward. Kid, what the hell are you doing? Get back with the... He cut himself off when he saw the look on Midoriya's face. It was terrifying. The look of sheer anger and murder on the 15-year-old's face genuinely scared Aizawa, and he was a seasoned pro. when Midoriya activated his quirk. Aizawa was about to erase it, but when the green lightning danced around his body, he stopped himself because what the fuck is going on with this kid? Black tendrils shoot out of Midoriya's arms, while his foot started growing red. Aizawa by now was thoroughly freaked out at how his kid suddenly had 3 new quirks. Before he could try and get the kid to not attack the horde of villains, the kid shot down the stairs like a literal bullet. Aizawa watched this 15-year-old take down a giant of a monster with one kick before changing his direction with what seemed like practice ease to punch the light out of a villain that seemed to be the leader. The sickening crunch that echoed through the building was disturbing enough that made his stomach churn. Him and the entire class stood at the top of the stairs, watching the Sunshine student brutally take out every villain. "What the fuck?" one of his students muttered. Next to him, he turned and saw it was Bakugo. The kid's face was as pale as a ghost and shaking. That thing is not Deku. The level of conviction and fear in his voice convinced Aizawa that he needed anything more to convince him. After Midoriya captured all of the villains, Aizawa watched him carefully. So when the kid started swaying on his feet, he immediately rushed down. He reached the kid who was laying crumpled on the ground and checked him for any injuries, which he found none. He stayed crouched by the kid, thinking of what he should do next. He decided that it'd be best for everyone to get out of the building, so he carefully picked up the kid and carried him back up. They reached up the rest of the class. Aizawa made a motion for them to follow him out of the place. They all sat outside on the step awaiting other heroes and the authorities to show up. Aizawa placed the still unconscious Midoriya away from others. He could tell that they were staring at him, talking about him. He had no idea what to do with the kid or if it was even the same kid anymore. Once the other teachers showed up, all of the kids were escorted back to the school. None of them were harmed, so they were told to change out of their hero suits and collect their things while the school contacted their parents. Midoriya, though, was brought to the nurse's office where Nezu, Aizawa, Shio, and Detective Tsukashi discussed what they would do with him. He was his normal self all morning, and even as 13 started giving the class instructions, it was completely sudden, the switch up. I took my eyes off the class for only a moment to see the portal opening up when it happened. Aizawa explained to them. So he took every single criminal within a minute by himself after the switch? Tsukashi asked. He was sitting down with his elbows on his knees and he looked at the kid laying in the hospital cot. Yep, the room was silent for a moment. Well then, it seems though, as we have a lengthy conversation ahead of us, once our young student here wakes up, Nezu said with a chipper clap. Aizawa looked at his student. He had only known the kid for only a couple of weeks, but his instincts were screaming at him to protect him from what? He didn't know, but he would do it without a second thought. He sighed as he tried thinking of what his student could have possibly gotten into. Well, that is the end. I don't know if there's any more this is a complete. I believe so. Obviously, the second chapter is Aizawa's POV, and the first one was Izuku's. I hope you guys enjoyed. To be honest, I kind of wish there was more to this because I want to know what happens next and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this one's a bit more of a shorter one, but I want to slowly ease back into the groove, of recording. I'm also recovering from a cold, so my throat's a bit sore. But yeah, no. I hope you guys enjoyed. I've really missed doing this. I've missed my channel. I've I've just missed everyone, like, in the comments and everything. You guys were always the sweetest. I am gonna go eat some honey now to help with my throat, because talking a lot when you're recovering from a cold isn't always the greatest on your throat. But to be honest, that's fine on me, because I made this choice myself. So this is my own mistake if I want to complain, But I have to also get ready for school. So, because I am in college, like I've said. I'm inside a lovely program where we make logos, web development, software development, photography. We're doing a wide spread of things, and it's so much fun. And I hope to be able to share some of that stuff through my channel at some point. So sorry. Oh my god. Anyways, I hope you guys have a lovely day, morning, evening, whenever, wherever you are. And I will see y'all next time. Thank you for joining, and have a lovely evening.